Namaste and greetings and welcome to yet another one of our programs, Be My Guest. Today we're talking on a very important program, a very important subject called marriage, an institution that we all are quite aware of. And with me, again, we have Sri M.K. Angajan, who sacrificed his promising engineering career and has dedicated himself for 25 years to the study, research, and propagation of Vedanta scriptures from East and West and its practical applications to day-to-day living. He spent 11 years of his prime time of youth in an ashram in India researching on Vedanta. Last 15 years, Angajanji has been traveling internationally to share his experiences, delivering spiritual discourses on Vedanta philosophy. He is prolific and accomplished speaker on Vedanta philosophy. Marriage, as I said, is a wonderful institution to make oneself happy. With that, I welcome you, Mr. Angajan.
Thank you. Great to be here once again.
Right. And my question is, again, it's a great institution, and I know you're going to enlighten us more about it. And what are some of the ingredients to create a successful marriage?
As you said, it's a great institution for us to grow in life. Mm-hmm. That's why it is called institution. In the Indian tradition, the human growth is from brahmacharya, that is the life of a youth, mm-hmm. Before they get into the life of a householder. And then by the age of about 20 or so, he gets into the householder's life, get married. And then moving on, vanaprastha, which is the semi-retirement, or the life of a recluse, semi-retirement. Mm-hmm. And then of course, eventually, sannyasa, wherein you've finished all your obligations and duties, etc.
So this is according to the East.
Yeah,
you are
right,
giving
yes.
us the
but
different steps. But it applies to the West too.
But West as well, because it happens to every one of us.
Yes.
Whether it's East or West, mm-hmm. everywhere. So that age, mm-hmm. wherein probably 20 to 50 years of age, wherein we enter into the life of a household, having got married, it is a great opportunity to develop oneself, find deeper sense of satisfaction, happiness, provided we approach it rightly. When it comes to marriage, one of the most important ingredient is, many people think it is about finding the right partner. Mm-hmm. One can find the best human being as the partner. You can never find happiness in marriage just by finding the right partner. The most important ingredient is about being the right partner. If you know how to be the right partner, it doesn't really matter what type of human being the other person is. You know exactly how to maintain the human relationship. So a lot of people go to the end of the world trying to find the right partner, and then they tick all the boxes and say, okay, this is the right partner, and they get enter the institution of marriage, they get married, and before they realize they realize that it's what they get into. It is not because there is something wrong with the other person, it is more about the way we approach. So marriage gives us a great sense of joy and satisfaction, provided we know how to contact, in terms mm-hmm. of managing our emotion. One of the other ingredient in marriage is that our emotion have to be calibrated. Human being, we have emotion, we are an emotional being, and we are very expressive with the emotions, mm-hmm. all right? So we got to learn how to emote. Some people in the West, they emote too much. In the East, generally, it's much less, isn't it?
Yes.
So using the emotion effectively, because that's one of the very ingredients in marriage, and if you don't know how to emote, it becomes a very, very detriment. The happiness goes.
All right. So you answered some of our questions. What are some of the ingredients for a successful marriage as well?
Yeah.
What are the factors that satisfy the human needs through marriage?
Right. Like I mentioned, it's an institution
mm-hmm.
that you grow into. Having gone through that institution, you satisfy many of your needs as a human being. All right. There are several components that really satisfy. Our spouse can be a guide, mm-hmm. Where when we are in a dilemma, where we need to sound it off, what do you think about it, So it's not just about happiness,
It's
So
friendship.
It's friendship. There is friendship. There is you can use your spouse as a guide, friendship, and then of course the emotional companionship. Everyone needs emotion. When I say emotion from the opposite gender, that is a very essential component
depending.
of it. That's right.
Not necessarily opposite gender,
sometimes
but
can be.
yes,
it can be. I see what you mean.
A partner.
You can get a partner, right?
Yes.
Emotional need, and among all this, the most important need is the perpetuation. It is not just lust gratification. Of course, through the gratification of lust in a controlled manner, we have the desire to perpetuate, to bring out offsprings, etc. And then there again is not only the emotion that you receive from your spouse or from your partner, all right, and having lived the life of a householder, and then when you enter into the next stage, all right, where we say vanaprastha, again it's not restricted to East only, all right, that is where our need from our spouse is more or less fulfilled, and then thereafter we give our emotion to our children, and then we receive from them, isn't it?
Right.
So the next stage, that's what happened. So these are all the component that really gets fulfilled through the institution of marriage, provided we have the right mental disposition to approach it. If we don't have the right mental attitude, marriage can be the most painful thing, So it is not all about what happens, it is about what we make of it.
I think what we make of it is very, very important at the end of the day. And, everybody talks about a perfect marriages when there's children involved, and not necessarily that needs to be in this day and age.
Doesn't have to. So long as we are able to reciprocate our emotional need, intellectual need, physical needs, etc., and it is a mutual benefit.
Right. Yeah, but, divorce rate seems to be soaring across the world very alarmingly, according to the days bygone. What, according to you, is the reason for this? What is going wrong?
Right. In marriage, the divorce rate is primarily for two reasons. One is selfishness and ego. It's not only the divorce, in any human relationship that damages, If you actually analyze, our relationship never dies, We kill it, we massacre it, we murder it. What in us murder it? Our ego and selfishness.
Well, but they say always care for yourself first.
Yes.
The analogy of putting your mask first in the aeroplane, right?
That's right. So, see, that is self-interest. When you say care for yourself first, not at the expense of the other person, So, of course, we need to look after yourself, all right? But if you look after yourself at the expense of the other person, then it becomes detrimental, all right? But very often, when it comes to marriage, it's the other way.
Well, they say if you take care of yourself, then you're obviously going to be taking care of whoever is close to you.
Yes, it is. But when you say take care of yourself, what does taking care of yourself mean?
This is it. That's what I wanted you to.
Correct. Taking care of yourself doesn't mean that we focus upon our interest first. All right.
When you say our interest, you mean financially? You mean?
No, in every sense of the term. In every sense of the term, our interest in the sense of our physical need, our emotional need, our intellectual need, etc. But when it comes to marriage, all right, it's the other way. You give to the other person. That is what true love is all about. You have come across. I'm sure I've come across that couple who are madly in love with each other. And sometimes you envy that, what a wonderful couple, what a wonderful harmony, and you wish them so well, so much happiness, etc. But before you realize, we hear the bad news, they're separated.
Yeah.
It is not because there is no love and affection. What happens is that in the process, our love is manifest as attachment. See, there is a difference between love and attachment.
That's a very serious topic, this.
That's right. When love polluted with selfishness, it becomes attachment, it becomes infatuation. So when we say somebody is really in love with each other, it is far from love. It is actually infatuation. What is infatuation? Infatuation is, there is affection, but that affection is springing from because of our fulfillment of our needs that is coming from the other person. All right, our emotional needs get fulfilled, love and affection that we receive from the other person, our lust get fulfilled, our ego get pampered, etc. So when these needs are coming from the other person, we develop an affection to that person. All right, now that is not love. That is love polluted with selfishness. So such love or such a relationship can never last. Sooner or later it's going to break.
Why? I ask, is that the reason why marriages fail?
Because our love is only because that person is catering to our own physical, emotional, intellectual need. Whereas true love is sacrifice, wherein we sacrifice our interests, our selfishness and ego for the other person's benefit. That is true love, which is actually sacrifice. So in the world today, when marriage fails, it's not because there is definitely lack of love, but it's more because of infatuation or attachment. And infatuation, like I said, it is because when there is affection, because that person is catering to your need.
And the other thing, I think, because in this modern day, in the older days, in days gone by, society expected women to stay home. And the rules of the government were such,
That's right.
It was not expected of women were not good enough to work.
They assume at least.
It was assumed, yes. So, but now with things changing, women are becoming more independent economically, and they are more empowered. But not that women were not empowered; they just didn't. They had the strength within them, but it was suppressed.
That's right.
From the way society was. So, in many cases, nowadays it seems like men are house husbands.
Some cases.
Some cases, yes. But to get back, it's the way, again, to get back to the focusing of the way you're talking about selfishness and things, the way the women, or not just women, we shouldn't be using women or men, I think in general, the way we as human beings today are living such busy lives that the focus is not as much as home like it used to be, as I said, when women were home and we had definite roles.
That's right.
Women cooked the food, whereas men just went away and provided the capital, basically, the resources to get that kitchen going.
That's right.
So with that being said, I think that selfishness may be taking a different turn a little bit. I don't know whether I'm right.
It is actually taking a different turn. Every human being has the desire to be independent.
Right.
One doesn't feel very comfortable when you become dependent upon somebody else for our survival.
Right.
All right. That was happening to a large extent in olden days. All right. Now, as time goes, women are becoming more and more independent financially and in many other ways. All right. But in the process, what is happening is that they are forgetting one of the more important value, that is interdependence.
Right. That's I think is what I was trying to get.
Exactly.
Yes.
See, independence, of course, it's great to get independent. But when they gain independence, they forget interdependence.
Right. Interdependence is
That's
the key.
Right. Marriage, the key is interdependence. The wife alone or husband alone or a partner alone cannot make a marriage, isn't it? It is about interdependence.
And interdependence, not to the fact that you need to really clean after your partner. It's interdependence on the level feel of everything.
That's right.
Whether it's rearing a child, whether it's cleaning the house, whether it's
in every sense.
Every sense.
No, because olden days, like you mentioned, the husband used to, by and large, husband used to be the breadwinner, and then wife would make the house. The homemaker.
So we're talking on general consensus as we know marriage as husband and wife. It not necessarily need to be husband and wife. It's partners.
In any relationship.
Whichever relationship you're talking about.
So the olden days, that's the way it was. The wife used to be the homemaker and the husband. But now it's the roles, as many cases, roles are reversed, which is perfect. But in the process, the value of interdependence is forgotten. Marriage is a mutually beneficial relationship. It is a process of complementing each other, you know,
Right,
because in the partner they help each other to grow and bring about happiness. But in the process, the two factors, ego and selfishness. I mean, that being said, it is true in any human relationship, whether it is between friends, between parents and children, between spouses, between boss and colleagues, in any relationship in the work environment. You know, two factors that destroys our human connection is the ego and selfishness. So that is what we need to be careful about, you know.
Right.
In fact, ideally, before a couple enter into the institution of marriage, there must be enough education, enough training, and help them to understand what are the dynamics of marriage. Because many young couple entering into the institution of marriage, they have a very rosy notion about marriage, you know. They don't realize that there are so many challenges involved in it. And at least I haven't come across institutions or organizations actually educating them as to what is marriage is all about.
Where do you get that education? I think churches do that. Quite often they do that beforehand.
It is, yeah, but I don't know if it's still done enough. You know, it's very gratifying to see that they're making the effort, all right? But still, they just do a premarital counseling. You know, that's probably an hour or two, but that's not it. I mean, you can't sustain a relationship that lasts for a lifetime by a few hours of education, which of course is fantastic to start with.
Yeah, well, I'm aware of a community, the Catholic community, that actually have it over a few months.
Yeah.
And they, you know, counsel them very
fantastic.
well. So I thought that was a great program.
No, it is.
I have no idea where
I'm
it's
very
available
glad to hear that.
locally.
So in fact, every faith, every community, every religion should engage in that, because what happens is when once they get married, there is the children comes, arrival of the children, the financial needs, etc. So everywhere the ego and selfishness creeps in, you know, and it pollutes it.
I think it's very important even before getting to marriage that people talk about their finances.
That's right.
I think that's about one of the more important things, because quite a few marriages can go haywire because of the finances.
Absolutely.
You know, one of the reasons.
Correct.
Over and above other things.
You know, talking about finances, you know, I've seen many relationships deteriorate or breaks, you know, because either husband is a spendthrift and wife is what do you call this, very thrifty, conservative, or it could be the other way, you know. Both there is a problem. There's be constant conflict because one person wants to spend, other person wants to save. All right, and then if both are spendthrift, then also there will be danger because they have nothing to save for the future.
For the future, yes.
And conversely, if both are saving type, also there is a problem. You know.
Yeah.
So there has to be a right understanding as to where do we spend the money. You know, when it comes to money. We say we must earn with integrity and spend with compassion. You know, so when it comes to money, even in marriage, you know, there must be an element of compassion involved in the charitable disposition, etc. So rightly said that money can be a big factor that contributes to the divorce and disintegration of marriage.
After I ask you this next question, I will get back to finances probably.
Okay.
Right? So this is, if you compare different cultures like East and West, approach to marriage is very different.
Right.
For example, in the West, they are very expressive, which we already touched a little bit about, and in their affection. While in the East, like India, it's not so much of expression of affection. What's your take on that as far as marriage is concerned? I know we touched a little bit about it. I don't know whether you want to further.
Yep. The affection, all right, it's of course is one of the very important ingredients in marriage, all right. Now what happens is in the West they express it so much that the recipient loses its value. Right. The law of the human mind is that anything received in abundance has no value. You know, for example, how much of a value that we attribute to oxygen.
Oh yes,
you know,
yes.
We value it when it's not available. Let's say if you're climbing
true.
a hill, if you're on a trekking into
high
altitude, then you realize how valuable it is, isn't it? When it's not there. So similarly, affection, all right. So therefore, it has to be measured, it has to be calibrated, it has to be regulated. Overdose of affection. Remember, just as when it comes to food, we have a limit. We have a quantity how much anyone can eat, isn't it?
That's true.
Now, similarly, affection is food for our mind, food for our emotion, all right? So there is a limit how much one can receive. Sometimes we overload our spouse, our partner, or even children. Some of the parents overload the children with their affection, and eventually the children lose value. They shall tell the parents, get off my back, you know. In the Eastern country, the way we express affection is we don't actually tell them I love you, etc. You know, mothers I've seen, you know, the mother keep asking, have you had your breakfast? Did you clean your room? And did you do this? And that's our way of saying, you know, we never say I love you. You know.
I care for you. That's
I care for you.
That's why I want this to be the way it is. So,
Absolutely.
Others may look at it as controlling. Though.
Controlling, it's not. It's actually a way. But sometimes, you know, when we overdo it, it becomes detrimental. And same thing in marriage also. You know, see, the law is that the deeper the affection, minimum expression is needed. When the affection is shallow, we find the need to express it. You know, and again, it's mutual. It's not that one person has got the deep love and the other person has got. You know, if both has got the deep love, there's no need to express. You know, some of your listeners may find it difficult to digest.
I was going to say that. You know, you're
but
probably
it is
causing a controversy, right?
Exactly. But you know, we could do with affection, but when it, I mean, we could do with expression, but when we express it, all right, it is so important for us to understand how much to express. It has to be calibrated, you know. And it's true. Even it's not only affection, even sorrow, you know.
Yes.
When you're deeply sorrowful, you won't find that person crying and beating the breast and, you know, and throwing tantrum, etc. The deeper the affection, you can feel the heaviness of their heart, you know. So that's one of the laws that we need to keep in mind, that expression is good, but it has to be regulated. And again, it is not only confined to marital relationship, in any human relationship, especially parents, children, children to parents, etc. You know.
Yes, just about, and like you know, like love, sorrow, death also needs to be acknowledged.
Exactly.
And because they say these are the things that cause mental breakdowns these days, right?
Exactly.
So I was telling you I was going to get back to a question, but it was more about outside influences. When I say outside influences, in this generation, they don't think that they need extended family. But at least for me, I found that very, very important, having my in-laws coming, you know, being around, and my my parents, yes. So I was wondering, you know, how is that? What is your take on that? Outside influences, so-called.
You know, we need to allow the. I wouldn't say influence. I would say positive influence from the other people. And again, we got to keep a filter as to what kind of influence is coming from outside. You know, and another important factor that we need to focus upon, we were talking about the affection, is that there are three very important components in marriage. That is, most people think it is love. Love is only one small component of it. Love, trust, and respect. When there is a combination of trust, respect, and love, it is called reverence. So therefore, the real sustaining relationship, there is reverence for each other. It's not just simply affection and love.
Right.
You know. And how do we develop that? Trust, respect, and love. Trust is a feeling of confidence, you know, in the other person. And affection we discuss. So when there has to be the three elements, but most couple focus only upon love. You know, I love him, or I don't love him, or love her, or I don't love her, etc. You know.
Sorry, but I can't understand how you can love the spouse and not love the spouse's parents.
Yeah, I mean you can happen that actually. I mean, it's possible. You know, but then if you love somebody, you also generally love whatever that person loves. You know, it's extensive.
Yes,
you know.
Yeah.
So the dynamics of three components: love, trust, and respect. You asked the question earlier, why do marriages deteriorate and fail? One of the reasons is that they're not focusing upon these three components. You know, either they focus too much upon love and they totally disregard the trust and respect part of it. You know,
Right.
We violate the law of respect when we take the person for granted. See, what happens is having lived with the person for a period of time, all right, we begin to take the person for granted.
Very much so.
As a result, communication breaks down. So therefore, how do we fulfill these three needs of trust, respect, and love? Again, the three elements. This is what I would call 3 A's of marriage. the 3 A's of marriage are affection, attention, and appreciation. All right. When it comes to our emotional need, we express affection. We give affection, receive affection. All right. The attention is wherein we build the trust component of it.
Right.
In other words, when your your spouse speaks, all right, how much of listening are we doing? If you actually analyze, it's very, very limited.
Very limited.
We may be pretending to be listening, all right, but internally it's hardly, our mind is preoccupied with something else. Because what happens is, when you live with the person, after a while you begin to take the person for granted. And the moment the spouse starts speaking, the other one say, ah, she started or he started. He may not express it, but internally. As a result, hardly any listen, you know. So affection, expression of affection, calibrated. Attention, we got to pay undivided attention. And the third element is appreciation, all right. Every day, there must be something that we actually appreciate in the other person, that we need to express it. I appreciate what you do. I appreciate, it could be the dressing habit, it could be the way the person manages the house, it could be anything, you know.
Yeah.
So when you appreciate, what happens is the other person's self-esteem gets boosted, all right. So affection fills the love component of it. Attention fills the trust component of it. Appreciation fills the respect component of it, the 3 A's. And you find the relationship, even damaged relationship, begin to blossom, you know, when we take care of that. So it is an art, after all.
Right.
You know, marriage is an art, it's a skill. It has to be trained in.
For sure. And, you know, being focused and paying attention to what your partner, spouse says, I think is very important. And the same way you pay attention to your children too.
It is.
You know, leave all the electronic devices and whatever you need to, and just be focused and be attention.
Indeed.
And with that very, very positive note, I'd like to thank you for joining us once again on Acton TV and on our program, Be My Guest. I wish you well.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me once again.
And thank you. And you please be sure to we are available almost anytime, 24/7 on actontv.org. From your host, Hamsha Naidu, Be My Guest. Bye-bye.